Very good afternoon to all, and welcome to Tally CA Connect. So, as I say, it's always great to meet you all every Wednesday at our CA Connect forum discussing TallyPrime features, resolving your queries. So, today's CA Connect is special for two reasons. First, we have a new expert at this forum. Please allow me to welcome CA Henik Shah. Henik ji is a practicing chartered accountant. His core areas of practice includes taxation, system implementation, automation. He has been speaker at various important forums, various CA study circles. In fact, just for Tally itself, he has taught over 2,500 CAs. So thank you, Mr. Henik, for taking out time for our CA Connect forum, that is for Tally. And today, Mr. Henik will be covering a very new topic. Matlab, so in a way, I would say it might not be new, but a very interesting take on how you can create templates within Tallying Prime and importing sales data, which I'm sure you must be doing, but he will have much simpler way of showing and how you can map your vouchers effectively, such as important details such as groups, what GST details, what addresses. And so without further delay, let's start the session so that we can make the best out of it. And thank you so much for joining in with the tax audit due date also. So thank you, Mr. Henik. Let's start right away and let's make the
Sure,
best
sure,
out of
sure.
this 1 hour.
Thank you,
Welcome
thank
again.
you for the kind introduction and thanking Tally Solutions for inviting me on board. Before I begin, let me just get a hang of what type of attendees or what type of participants do we have with what type of experience. Okay, how many of you have not tried mapping templates yet? Please put a yes in the chat box that we have not tried mapping templates. So all those who are putting a yes, they have never tried mapping templates ever. For them, this is a completely new concept. Great, great, great. I see a lot of people, a lot of people. Good, 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 good. Good going. Okay. Now, for all those who have tried mapping templates or who are extensively using mapping templates, now they would please put a yes in the chat box that yes, we are using mapping templates. Using. Okay, okay, okay. Cup, couple of people here as well. Okay, fine, fine, fine. Once somebody has tried once. Okay. Uh, okay, fine, fine, fine. Great, great, great. So I'm getting a better idea of what kind of audience do we have. Thank you for responding. And please, since this is an online or Zoom session, I would request please keep on responding so that I understand how things are being going or whether they are going in the right way or not. Just a minute. Let me share my screen. Okay, fine. Okay, everybody can see my screen, right? But
Yeah, it's
everybody can
visible. Yes.
visibility. Okay, great, 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 great. Let's take things ahead. Okay, fine. So basically, for all those who are new, okay, the topic that today we have comes on the side of automating your accounting with the inbuilt features that Tally has. Okay. Many of you might be knowing that for the longest of time, Tally had certain features of automatically importing your transactions, be it your banking related transactions, be it your sale, purchase, basically anything and everything that can come in Excel. However, there was no facility within Tally itself to give this kind of a functionality directly. So what used to happen was people used to use third party softwares or third party Excel to Tally tools. How many of you are using third party Excel to Tally tools? Just put a yes in the chat box. Third party Excel to Tally tools, anything, quick tally or something of that sort. So what used to basically happen is that for all those who are using your some third party tools, you would be pasting data in your that third party tool, that third party software. Then probably it would be converting it into some XML format, which would be very difficult to. Cannot hear. It is just within me, or is
No,
there an
no,
issue? No,
we
sir.
can
There is
hear
no
you
issue.
well, so yeah.
Okay. So then it would probably be converting it into some XML format, which is very difficult to understand if you just try and open it up. And then it would be importing it into Tally. Yes, then there are such third-party tools which probably scan some part of your PDFs as well. One of them is this tool that Sir has mentioned, Repotic, and then there are a couple of other tools as well, which probably use OCR technology as well, wherein you have to scan something, upload it on their server, they converted it into Tally readable formats and take it ahead. Okay. Now, since Tally Prime 4, Tally in itself, so within the software of Tally, so within the Tally Prime software itself, we have started getting these features or these functionalities wherein we can create our own template, okay, depending on the source data that we have. Just a minute. Depending on the source data that we have, we can create our own template, okay, we can create our own mapping functionality without really being dependent on those third party tools and third party softwares. And whatever data we have in Excel, provided it has got some structure to it, whatever data we have in Excel, we can import it into Tally without using any third party softwares. Okay. The problem arises for majority of the people whenever they try. For all those who have not tried, don't worry, I'll be teaching you from the basics, so no worries. For all those people who would have tried mapping templates, you would have realized there are some weird sort of errors that come up that you may have not even realized that such things must have happened. How many of you got those type of errors wherein debit total not equal to credit total, or say for example you tried to import but it didn't import and there was no error visible? Anybody who's having such type of an experience, please put a yes in the chat box. Yes, 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 yes. Now, what happens is whenever we take this type of a topic up, what I tell everybody is that, to be frank, mapping templates are as such very simple, provided we follow the rules of accounting which were taught to us in our what early junior college days. In Mumbai, we have this concept of junior college, wherein 11th and 12th standard are called as junior college. In other states, there may be different education patterns. Anyway, so basics of commerce, basics of bookkeeping, if we understand, and the fundamental knowledge that we have of using Tally Prime software or Tally ERP for that matter, any software of Tally, okay, Tally accounting, the fundamental knowledge and the basics of bookkeeping that are being taught to us in our college days, just these two things are sufficient enough to at least take things ahead. For all those who realize that debit not equal to credit, again, in your journal entries when you were taught in your college days, it was very simple, right? For every debit, there has to be a credit, else it basically defies the logic of double entry system of accounting. Okay. Now, sir, why are we going to the basics? So as to understand things logically, that by going through the basics will give us a better answer later. जस्ट अ मिनट, होल्ड ऑन. समीर, पापा को दे दो ना, चिंतन का फोन आ रहा है, पापा को दे दो. Okay, fine. Now, all those automation solutions that are available and inbuilt in Tally Prime as a feature, out of this we would be taking one part, that is the sales part, considering time. And even in that sales part, I will be teaching you how, in case if you have got some other type of Excel or some other template or anything that you get in Excel, how logically and smartly you can map it out so that you can directly start entering data, importing data without the need of third party utilities, without the need of what do you say, any other standardization as such. Okay. Next slide. This is something that I always share in every of my tech session. See, there are many people over here who have experienced something or the other. I have some experience. There are people who have not experienced, but everybody has got some or the other knowledge. Please keep on sharing your knowledge as well, as and when I tell you. In case if you have any queries, you may also put it in the chat box. If there is something that we can take it at the end, we'll take it at the end. If there is some type of query that we can take it now, I'll discuss it off. Okay. Everybody has something or the other to contribute, and individual knowledge put together can complete any puzzling task with ease. So yes, today's topic, automating sales data imports in TallyPrime with smart and flexible templates. First things first, let's understand some of the basics part. Okay, just a small doubt, let me clarify that. Is there anybody over here who has no idea of TallyPrime software? Anybody? Everybody has worked on TallyPrime, right? Okay, so everybody has worked on TallyPrime. There is nobody as such who has not worked on TallyPrime. Then I believe that you would start agreeing to whatever I say right now. Whenever you create a new stock item, okay, whenever you create a new stock item in Tally, okay, you can visualize the Tally in front of you. Right now I'll be taking up theory, or else we'll take up practically first and then we'll take up theory. Okay, let me open just Tally Prime. Okay, by the way, the data and the Excel files, I'll be sharing it with you after the session so that you can get it as a link, a Google Drive link. Right now, what I will recommend everybody is that whatever I am saying, please keep making your running notes. Okay, please understand whatever I'm trying to say and keep on making your running notes so that whenever you try on your own, you have a better idea of how to do things. And obviously, if there is any query, you can there would be some way in which you can connect. I'll have a word with the tally people. They can connect so that all your queries can be resolved after you start trying as well. As of now, what I'll recommend is please be with me in the session. Don't try to do anything on your own right now. You can always refer the YouTube video and the data that I will be providing you so that you can try it on your own. Right now, please understand the concept and the logic behind whatever I'm trying to say. Okay, fine. So everybody must have created stock items at some or the other point of time. Okay. Just right now I'm just altering something so that I can share it with you how things work. Okay. This would be probably the screen that everybody would be getting. Right. Now, if you understand, for all practical purposes, name of the stock item, compulsory, you don't stand an option. Group of the stock item, in this case, for simplicity purposes, we have taken it primary. Again, basic, compulsory, you don't stand an option. For all those who do GST accounting, units, units that is visible over down. I cannot move my mouse, the cursor over there. Units, as in what is the UQC of that particular item. Again, something that is mandatory, else you'll start getting errors once you deal with your GST reports like GSTR1 and GSTR3B and stuff. GST applicability for all those who do GST accounting applicable. Then in case if you are dealing with multiple of items, then probably you would be mentioning your HSN over here. Taxability type would be taxable, and say for example this particular item comes at 12% of GST rate. Everybody would be knowing that these are the basic, the fundamental, more or less compulsory details that you have to mention whenever you are um, creating a stock item. Yes, basic. Please put a yes in the chat box. Very basic, very basic. Fine. Now similarly, whenever we take up, say for example, a new ledger creation or maybe a new sundry debtor creation. Okay. So say for example, a new sundry debtor creation. Okay, let's take it over here. Obviously, the name of the debtor, that is the name of the ledger, that is compulsory, mandatory. You don't stand an option. Okay. The grouping of the debtor, that is, it is a sundry debtor or maybe some other further groups created in sundry debtor itself. Okay. Again, mandatory. You don't stand an option. The state in which the debtor is located and the country of the debtor. Okay, these are again those things which are mandatory. You don't stand an option whenever you're doing some type of GST accounting. And the last two things, GST registration type, and the GST UIN. These 4 to 5 things are always mandatory whenever you create a new sundry debtor or a sundry creditor for that matter, whenever you do your GST accounting. Everybody understood this part? Like, sir, this is obvious. We anyway know this thing. See, the point is, more or less, more or less in the obvious elements itself, people do terrible lot of mistakes whenever they try to create their own templates, mapping templates. Okay, again, this was basics when it came to sundry debtor creation or sundry creditor creation. Yes, everybody with me, put a yes in the chat box. Thank you, thank you. So again, back to the PPT. Now you very well know, and in this session you very well now recollected that what all details are required whenever you create a new master. Okay, so whenever it comes to, say for example, automated stock master creation, stock item, yes, we saw. Grouping under, in our case we saw primary. Units, obviously, if you are doing GST accounting, whether it is a pieces or a dozen or a kilogram or this or that, whatever. GST applicability, obviously applicable whenever you do a GST accounting. HSN SSC details, obviously you need. Again, GST rate details, taxability type, whether it is taxable, exempt, etc., etc. Similarly, for ledger master creation, there are a couple of details which are always mandatory. Name of the ledger, obviously, that is your sundry debtor, name of the sundry debtor. Group under, it may be generic sundry debtor or it may be some specific groups that you would have created under sundry debtors. Or sundry creditors if you're dealing with something which is on the purchase side. Right now we are dealing on the sale side, hence I am using the word sundry debtors more. Basic address if it is available. However, what is mandatory is the state and the country. GST registration type, the GST IN. Fine, everybody with me? Now we'll take up the next part, and that is sales voucher entry. Again, just going through the basics. So say for example, if you do a sales voucher entry over here, okay, very basic, huh? Very basic. For majority of it would be like, sir, this is obvious, but nay, obvious creates the most mistakes. First things first. Okay, basic sales voucher. What do you have over here? The voucher type. In this case, it is sales. In your case, you may have it as sales, you may have it as some other voucher types that you would have probably created considering your own accounting, or maybe your accountant must have created something. Then you have the sales invoice number over here, the date. Okay. This is, by the way, item invoice view. You have the party name. Okay. Say, for example, let's take it as Panjim Traders, Goa. Okay. One more thing. So say for example, just for simplicity purposes, we do not have the dispatch details. But whenever you do your GST accounting, there would be something like this that you would be getting, right? Probably you would also be getting consignee details as well. But again, just for simplicity purposes, we are taking one side of the spectrum. Okay. Party details, this is something that you would be getting. And in those party details, you would be getting the state, the country, the GST registration type, GST UIN, place of supply. Everybody, you get these type of screens whenever you do your tally accounting, whenever you do your sales entries, right? Please put a yes in the chat box. Sorry. Yes. Now sales ledger, you would be having multiple sales ledgers. You would be having, say for example, sales 5%, sales 12%, sales this percent, sales that percent. Usually they used to do VAT, whenever they used to do VAT accounting, they used to have more these type of sales. Usually whenever I recommend GST accounting, I recommend having single type of sales ledgers, and then GST rates should be mentioned in the inventory item itself. That is what I usually suggest. Say for example, you bought a bat. Okay, you bought a bat, and wait a minute. You bought a bat, maybe one quantity, 1 dozen. It would be what, like maybe 100 rupees per dozen. Okay. Then you would be getting this type of screen as well, wherein it would be asking you whether you intend to mention the rate and the HSN over here, or do you intend to take the rate or and the HSN from wherever it is mentioned elsewhere. So in our case, we have mentioned it in the item master itself. So it is catching the data from there. Everybody, you would be getting such type of screen as well. Now, say for example, this was Goa Party, IGST. IGST is automatically calculated. And you would be getting such a type of screen as well in case if you're, accounting on new reference against reference basis. And that is more or less recommended also whenever you do, say, for example, your MSME report reconciliation, whether the payment has been made or some money has been received within the designated time. Yes, you would be doing such part as well. You would be receiving these type of this type of screen and these type of details, and at the same time you would be receiving, say for example, the one that we saw when it came to GST rates, GST rate, HSN. You would be seeing such type of screens, right? Please put a yes. Thank you. Okay, very basic, sir. We see these things every day, every now and then. This is what we see. So what is the big deal in it? I'll tell you what the big deal is. Okay. Whenever you get an Excel file, okay, whenever you get an Excel file and you want absolute, complete automation of it, okay, the details that we just saw have to be somewhere present in that Excel file. Once again, I'll repeat. Whenever you receive an Excel file from your client, okay, not receive in party ledgers, when we see bill wise, yes, obviously credit days, you will see it over there. Okay, you have to go to and then you do your bills receivables, bills payable, and you can see the outstanding bills or whatever payments that are uh, outstanding, okay, or receivable. The thing is ki whenever you think of absolute automation, whenever you're getting such details in Excel and you think like, nai, what I want is I want no manual effort or very less manual effort, and automatically the new stock items, if there are mentioned in the Excel, should be automatically created. New ledgers should be automatically created, and automatically your sales transactions or whatever, in case if you're dealing with purchase, so purchase, but right now we are dealing with sales. So sales transaction should be automatically imported into Tally with Tally's inbuilt features so as to avoid third party softwares. Everybody with me till now? So now we take up a sample Excel file. Now the beauty of the way I'm trying to present is that by and large, by now you would have understood that yes, whatever details we anyway mention whenever we anyway create a new transaction or a new master, whatever details we anyway have to mention have to be present in that Excel file, whatever you get from your client, irrespective of the format of that Excel file. In some Excel files, you would be having some names here, some columns there, this, that. Okay, accepted, acceptable. But you very well know the logic, how to take care of things. You have started to understand the logic, and I'll be dwelling more deep, getting in more advanced, more complicated concepts in the times now. Okay. So now I have one sample Excel file which kind of covers more or less the possible scenarios that are available. Okay, I'll just show. By the way, I'll be sharing this Excel file later on so that you can test it out with your Excel, with your own Tally whenever you try whatever we have learned right now. So no worries on that one. As I had said earlier, right now, please try and understand the logic by which we are going. Okay, let me just open the Excel file for everybody. Okay, I am going to the better one, the complex one only. Okay. Now let's have a look at the Excel file that we have. You would also be probably be getting similar Excel files from your clients as well whenever you try to import. For all those who have never Never done this part, no worries. These details, the details that we discussed just now, have to be somewhere or the other mentioned in your Excel file, more or less. Okay? So say for example, this is by the way, in one of my clients case, this thing had happened. I had obviously modified the data so as to not get the real time data. But what happens is that they, many of them have got these billing softwares at their counters. Usually the retail people as well as the wholesale people, they have got billing softwares at their counters, wherein they just get the billing done, and then we have to take care of the accounting side of it. So how do we do that? So this is actually one of such POS softwares data that we get. We have on the first line, we have got the sales invoice numbers, then the date, then the party account name. Cash sales, as in, you have got your counter sales, wherein you don't really mention the name of the person who has bought. And in case if it is a B2B sale, then obviously you will be mentioning the name of the person who has bought the particular XYZ item. GSTIN, if it is applicable. This column, I'll come to it in some time later. Okay, I'll come to this column later. State. Now, recollect. Recollect when I was discussing creation of a new creation of a new ledger, a sundry debtor. You realize the state of the sundry debtor was mandatory to be mentioned whenever you try to create a new state, new sundry debtor. So whenever it is mandatory to mention, somewhere in the Excel file, it has to be available, right? Else, how would you be able to create a new sundry debtor? Everybody got this part? Whenever you think of doing some automation and there is some detail which is mandatorily to be mentioned whenever you do an entry in Tally, somewhere in that Excel file is it has to be made available. Else, how will you come to know that that party is of which state? Right? Everybody got it? What we are discussing right now is the type of details that need to be available in your Excel file whenever you think of some automation which needs to be done so as to avoid manual effort. What all details are mandatory? Else, what will happen is you will be like, sir, we got all the details, we got uh, the taxable value, the GST amounts, we got all those columns, yet we are not able to import our transactions. As to why, what is the issue? See, more majority of the times, these are the points where the issues come up. People fundamentally forget that there are certain basic details that you have to mention, else your entries won't move ahead. And what happens is, we are so used to manual accounting part that it is in our muscle memory. Enter, 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 muscle memory, control A, muscle memory, next entry. You may not even be looking at your screen correctly because for all these years of experience, it has been such ways with you. Okay, we take it ahead. Then some other thing that is mandatory, because we are taking a complicated case wherein we are also trying to import stock items as well. Now, obviously, in your Excel, it comes in a spreadsheet format. So for all those invoices wherein there are more than one items which have been sold, so you would be getting such downward invoices wherein one invoice over here, it has got two items. Then for this item, this invoice, you have got three items, stock items. This you have got four. So far and so good. You get such items. And. Let's take it. Quantity. How many quantity of that particular item you have bought? Unit. Again, recollect the basics. You need all of these details. Recollect the basics. You need the unit as to how many units UQC of that product have been sold. Taxable value, CGST, SGST, IGST. And probably the total over here per inventory item. Everybody, more or less, for all those who have tried a mapping template somewhere on, for all those who have not tried but get some details in Excel, more or less, this is how details you would be getting. What if there is a data entry error in XLS in any head? Sir, Gigo, garbage in, garbage out. Source date, if there is an entry error in the source data, then that entry error will carry forward in your tally as well. Usually what happens is, in case of point of sales, they usually don't have errors. Why? Because it is billing, right? So if there is an error in the entry, sir, can we have a round off column also? Yes. Before that, let me just clear the earlier query. Prakash ji, what happens is, if there is an error, it will be carry forward. Usually there is no error in case of point of sales data. Why? Because if there is an error in the point of sale data, the same error would be there in the sales invoice as well. I am assuming that the customer would be rational enough to check it off if there is some error. Yes, obviously, if the sales amount is less than what the product he has purchased, then he is not gonna care, human nature, but gigo. Okay. Arjun ji, sir, can we have a round off column also? Now, in case of round off, what happens is, there are two types of round offs. One is your positive round off, one is your negative round off. Now, what do I mean by that? So, say for example, over here, everybody on my screen. Okay, now over here, the invoice total is 1034.88. Okay, now you over here, you will be having a positive round off so as to make it 1035. Correct? But in the next invoice, as you can see, it is 1900.08. Over here, you will be having a negative round off so as to make it 1900. This is something that you would be doing it manually, or you would have probably configured the tally such that the moment you enter round off, it automatically goes to automatically makes the positive and the negatives, whatever it are. Everybody correct? More or less, this is how the round offs you would be working on. Either a positive round off, as of this case, double eight. So you would be having a positive round off of, say, for example, 12 paisa. And over here, in the second case, you would be having a negative round off of 0.8 paisa, right? This is how round offs you do normally, everybody. Yes? Up to 0.49 negative, and from 50 onwards, positive. Yes, 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 yes. Correct, correct, correct. So let's understand these the basics and the advanced part of data import first. Then at the end, I will take it to you how you can configure your round offs. Okay, sir, Arjun sir, and everybody else, the fundamentals of round off or how you can configure your round off, we will be taking up more or less at the end part of the session. Okay, right now let's just understand how these things work on first. Okay. If product code does not, sir, product code for us is not relevant. We are dealing with product names directly, because the product name is the stock item name. If the product code does not match with the product name, that is something that is a fundamental error of the data. It is not an error of our mapping template. So we don't have to worry for that one. Will party address, Arjun sir, hold on. Let me come to these parts, and your query will automatically be addressed. Okay, fine. So everybody, you got a hang of what that base data looks like. More or less, you would also be receiving such type of details in your Excel file. Okay. Now, say for example, when you get these type of Excel files, how will you be automatically creating new ledgers? How will you be automatically creating new stock items? And then how will you be automatically entering data into Tally? Let's look at the first mapping template that we have. I'll be sharing the data with you, so no worries on that part. Okay, right now, please just understand how and where we are going. Okay, so where do you go when you have to create a new template? You go to import, you go to manage mapping templates, and then you, in case if you intend to create a master, a ledger master or a stock item master template, you create it from here. In case you want to create a template for transactions, therein the sales transactions that we would be importing, you click the create over here. Right now, we already have created a few mapping templates, so I'll be showing it to you how they work. Okay. So say for example, let's take up the first template, stock item master. Now, stock item master, what it basic, this base XLS data work is manually or extract from some software. So Prakashji, that is what I'm trying to explain for all this while, is that this data you would probably be receiving maybe from some point of sale software, or in case purchase data, so you may be receiving it from GSTR2B or some other software, some other data. Obviously, if you're manually mentioning something into Excel, then why would you automatically import it into Tally, right? Okay, coming back, say for example, you're trying to map this template and then automatically create a stock item master. So how will you create the mapping template for a stock item master? Everybody, please keep the basics of creation of a stock item in at the back of your mind, and we'll take it ahead. Sheet 1. Whatever Excel files that you receive, or in case of my sample data, whatever Excel files you receive, again, as I was mentioning at the beginning part of the session, there are a few things that are mandatorily you need to have. Okay, first thing that was mandatorily you need to have is the product name. Okay, now I'll be going to and fro between the template and the Excel file, so I would request everybody to please pay attention on the screen. Okay, first things first, obviously what you would be needing is the name of the product, right? So I type name over here, mandatory. See, if you notice, see, a name is mandatory. So you need the name of the product, right? Else how will you be able to create a new product? Now, in our Excel, in our Excel, or as in the Excel that I am trying to show you, where is the product name mentioned? Where is the product name mentioned? It is mentioned over here, right? In this column, column J. Okay. And what is the header? What is the column header name? It is product name. So I am mapping that. Tally, please note that the name of the stock item in my Excel file is mentioned in some column whose header in some column whose header is named as product name. First line, first basic. Everybody clear? Please put a yes. I'll repeat it once again if anybody has any quick uh, uh, confusion. So basics of mapping template is that we are trying to explain to Tally that Tally, for whatever details that you require, these are the column headers wherein you will find the respective data. Second, again, as I mentioned, units, right? Dozens, pieces, kilograms, this, that, etc., etc. You will need, whenever you create a new stock item, you will need that thing, dozens of pieces, kilogram, etc., etc. Now, in our Excel file, where are they mentioned? They are mentioned in some column with the name unit. This is where they are mentioned. This is where they are mentioned. This is what I will try to explain it to Tally. That Tally, dude, units are mentioned in the column name unit. So this is what you link. Now this is now the third part. Now this is where things start to level up. Okay. Group name, group name, group name, group name. Now there is a possibility that in the Excel data that you must be getting from your client, or the data that we have over here, you see there is no specifically group name as such mentioned over here. Now, in my case, I know that all the stock items are going to go into primary. Okay. But there is no specific group name that is mentioned over here. Specific details here. Yes, exactly, exactly, exactly. Whenever you don't have any detail which is mandatory for creation of a stock item or creation of a ledger or entering data into Tally, whenever you don't have such a detail in Excel but which is mandatorily required in Tally, there would be largely a possibility that it would be a single figure item or a single data item. What do I mean by that? As Difaji has correctly mentioned over here, specified details here, I'll go to it. So what do you try to tell Tally? That Tally, dude, I do not have the column header which specifies the group name in my Excel file. And since I do not have the column header, I know for a fact that everything has to go into primary. What I'll do is I'll type primary over here. Everything has to go into primary. Hence, you please take it as primary. Okay. This is what it is done. Wait a second. Just a minute. Okay. Transactions alter stock item must. I instruct Tally that boss, you specify, you take this instruction that the group name has to be primary. Why? Because we do not have such a column in Excel wherein it would be mentioned that what group name is that stock item. Similarly, GST applicability. Now, at the back of your mind, this is what I was trying to tell. Wait a second. What I'll do is I'll open up a separate, another Tally wherein, side by side, I'll show you something. Wait a second. Let me do that. By the way, I am a Tally TDL developer as well. I develop TDLs. I have got a developer license. Company select company specify point of sale import alter stock item. Okay, and now I think it will be Sakti LG. Thank you. Now I think it will be better for everybody to visualize what we are trying to do over here. So we mentioned the name of the item. We have a column over here. Yes, and we got it in the mapping template as well, which is over here. For all those items wherein there are no mapping, there is no specific column in the mapping template, yet it is mandatory whenever you create a stock item. We are going to do a fixed field value because we don't have any other option. GST applicability. See, this we have taken it from here. GST applicability, it has to be applicable since we are trying to understand the concept wherein there is a GST accounting done. GST applicability, we have to mention that yes, for all stock items, the GST is applicable. GST rate details. Now see, GST rate details is over here. And in our configuration, we are doing specified details here. In your configuration, if you have mentioned it in the company itself, when you go to features and do the GST configuration over there in the company features itself, then for practical purposes, you would have mentioned over here as per company stock group. So even over here, what you'll mention is as per company stock group. Now it'll be like, sir, practically how do we do? Nothing, no rocket science. Copy from here, specified fixed wheel value, paste it over here. That's it, done. As simple as that. Understood? Two types of concepts are running over here parallelly. One, wherein you have some detail in the Excel format that you are trying to import. Two, GST applicable date and HSN applicable will also be mandatory, na sir. See, what happens is they are mandatory provided you are altering something. Okay. Whenever you create a new stock item, usually what it does GST applicable date and HSN applicable date from the date on which the data has been created. You recollect whenever you create a new company, books beginning from financial year beginning from GST beginning from, those details can be taken over, so that specifically for this part, a mandatoriness is kind of okay even if you don't have. Let's take it ahead. Will it work out multiple rates for the same item, that is local sales and export sales? Sir, I'll come to this part in some point of time. Okay, whenever you have got an export sales, how to take care whenever you have got a sales which is not really sales of India, I'll come to that part. Okay, no worries. So two parallel concepts running. Okay, concept number one, wherein you have got the detail mainly focus on master creation. Thank you, Prakashji. Thank you. Um, Whenever, okay, we are working on two concepts. Concept one, whenever you have got details in Excel. Concept two, whenever there are static details or fixed value details, as is mentioned over here, fixed value details, and you don't have a column or a data point in Excel. GST applicability type, taxable. Okay, right over here, see GST applicability type, taxable. Then CGST rate, SGST rate, IGST rate. We have columns for this in Excel. We have columns. See, we have columns over here. CGST rate column is there, SGST rate column is there, IGST rate column is there. Sir, what if you don't have columns, for example? Then compulsorily you have to go to fixed field value. Okay. Sir, what if we have multiple rates, then how will we do fixed field value? Well, good question. Then probably, you can add an additional column wherein you can calculate the rate and sort of create an additional column wherein you calculate the rate, as in C plus S plus I divide by the taxable into 100, and then you get the rate column as well. So yes, these will be the points wherein you have to be a bit flexible if you don't have the details in your sample Excel files. Again, similarly, HSN details, we are going to mention the HSN of the item in the item master itself. Hence, we do a specified details here. If you see, even in the HSN, we have done a specified details here. And HSN SAC, we have a column for HSN SAC. Yes, we have a column for HSN SAC. Over here, see, we have a column for HSN SAC. See, you may feel that it is a bit complicated or stuff like that, but trust me, what you are basically doing is what you used to anyway do manually. Sir, whatever details are not available in the Excel file, we are trying to give it a fixed field value. Why? Because it is anyway mandatory for you to create any stock item master. Whatever details are variable, whatever details are available in the Excel file, we are constantly giving it column headers. That tally, please understand, say for example, in the last part, that tally, please understand that in my Excel file, there is a column called as HSN SAC. There is this part. GST applicable with effect from. Yes, sir. In case if there is something, again, as I was explaining it to Arjunji, in case if there is something wherein there is a change or something like that, then you would need a GST applicable with effect from. Else, what happens is it sort of takes the default value or something and moves ahead. In case if you get an error whenever you're trying to import, then you can obviously mention GST applicable from over here and with effect from over here and take things ahead. Everybody with me? Creation of stock item master. Two aspects. Whatever details, variable details you have in tally, you mention the column header. Whatever details you do not have in your sample Excel file, but they are mandatory in tally, and you get an option to have a fixed field value, so that directly it assumes that yes, GST applicability is applicable, GST rate specify, taxability type is taxable. Everybody with me? In case if in this particular stock item master format, if anybody has any queries, please mention it over here, specifically in relation to stock item master. If not, then great, we will take it ahead. Obviously, there are more complicated elements to it. Say, for example, if there are godowns which are being maintained, or there are batches which are being maintained, or there would be manufacturing date, expiry date. But understand the logic. Understand the logic. For every detail that you need to mention in your master, you need to have a column in Excel. That is the rule of thumb. If you need to mention GST applicable with effect from, there would be multiple, say for example, because just right now on the September of 22nd, you had this point wherein the government decided to change rates. This was not the way to do it. There was another way to take care of it. Okay, that is not a part of today's session. But in case if the government changes rates, or in case if the government does something, wherein the GST applicable rate changes from a different date, then obviously you need to have a column in Excel. And if there is no column, then specify fixed field value and you mention the date. Okay. I think everybody is with me, and then there are no queries over here. So far, so good. We take up the next uh, part, that is the ledger creation, a much more easier part, honestly, compared to stock items. But yes, some things are complicated over there as well, and we'll take it up. Sure. Yes, let's take it ahead. Okay. Just a minute. Let me just open up a stock item master right now. Filter, ledger master, my bad. Say, for example, we take a Punjab traders, for example, and import which pin template, sorry, POS masters. Now this is a very basic one that we have over here, but I hope you'll understand what am I trying to say. Now name, first things first, name. Acha, a couple of other points when it comes to mapping templates that you ought to know, because what happens is people tend to get into such advanced level things that you tend to forget the basics sometimes. Okay, let me just give you some part. So basically, whenever you have a mapping template, there are two possibilities that you have. Either you can create a mapping template for this particular company, or the company in which, or the data in which you are working, or you can create such a type of template wherein it can work on all the companies which would be available on that particular computer or that particular desktop. Usually the second option doesn't work practically, from whatever I have seen in my experience. Hence this is the option that by and large people use. However, if you are working for a particular say for example group of companies, you working at a particular client, and there are a group of companies with similar type of accountings, similar ledgers that have been created, and similar work that is being done. They are just sister concerns for the sake of, maybe your client must have created sister concerns for whatever reasons they have. And in those types, you can do in all companies on this computer, and otherwise this company usually works. Name is something that you can give whatever you intend to give. Now, type of master. If you realize the last stock item master, the stock item creation that we saw, it was stock item master. Now what we are seeing is sundry debtor creation. So ledger master, sundry debtor, you create a sundry debtor, you're creating a ledger, right? And last what we saw was stock items. So now a couple of other things that you need to know over here. This side, usually we take even this part for granted. Okay, but please, you have a view, whatever Excel files that you get, you please have a view from where your data is starting. That is very basic, but it creates issues later on. Let me give you what do I mean by that. So Excel data has column headers. Yes, obviously. Where are the column headers? They are over here. Okay, row number for column headers. Which is the row number? Row number one, first row. Therefore, import data from row number two. Now, sir, what if there are some blank rows or something like that? If the blank row is over here, then what you would say? Import from row number three. If not, then continue from row number two. Import data from column. Now, which is the first column in which you're getting some data? It is column A. You got your voucher number, that is the invoice number in this case, from column A. So obviously start looking at the data from column A. Start looking at the data from column A and start looking at the data from row number 2. So basically what we are instructing is that from A2 and beyond, this is where the data exists. This is what we are trying to explain it to Tally when we create a mapping template. Okay, some other fundamentals. Name, again, name of the sundry debtor in this case, because we are talking of sales, we obviously have names of sundry debtors. The name of the column is account name, account name, account name, account name. We have mentioned it over here. Group name. Again, we do not have a column wherein, we can mention what is the group name. So fixed field value, sundry debtors, by सबके सब sundry debtors हैं. All of these are sundry debtors. Now GST registration type. Ah, so if you recollect, I had told you that I will come to it at some point of time. Okay. Specify fixed field value regular. Now, what do I mean by that? Understand. Say for example, this column did not exist. Say for example, this column did not exist. So would Tally be able to recognize, just on the basis of the fact that there is no GSTIN mentioned, would Tally be able to recognize, on the basis of the fact that there is no GSTIN mentioned, that that ledger is an unregistered or a consumer? Would Tally be able to recognize? Logically think logically. There are sometimes, wherein I have to break the logic also, but think logically. Koi baat nahi. What do you think? When the GSTIN is not mentioned, and you try to import that file in that Excel file in Tally, would Tally be able to recognize that it is a unregistered person? No. We got one answer as no. So once again, what happens is, you know, whenever you are mapping any template, I'll answer it for everybody. Okay. Once again, from the purpose, let's begin from the purpose. What is our purpose? Our purpose is to automatically enter the masters, automatically create the masters in Tally, automatically enter the entries, the transactions in Tally. Yes. For automatically creating the masters and transactions in Tally, we need to create a mapping template so that Tally understands where is the data, in which column is what data existing. Yes. Whenever, for all those data points which are mandatory, for all those fields which are mandatory, where there is no column in Excel, what do? We do a specified details over here, specified details here. Yes. To answer this question, if the GSTIN is not mentioned, Tally in itself won't be able to recognize. Now answer the question. If the GSTIN is not mentioned, Tally in itself won't be able to recognize that the GST registration type is unregistered or consumer. Okay, fine, no worries. If Tally in itself is not able to recognize, what we do? We create a column with a simple formula. That boss, if this is blank, then the GST registration type is unregistered consumer. If this is not blank, as in there is some GSTIN that is mentioned, you take it as regular. This is what we do. In some cases, sir, we get only the state code like 27, 36, 29. How to import this? Sir, we look up. 27 equal to Maharashtra. 29 is, I think, Karnataka. 36 is something else, which I don't recollect right now. The best way to do is VLOOKUP, wherein in your one column it would be the state code 01020304. In the next column there would be your names against those state codes, and then you do a VLOOKUP, create a specialized column the way I have created over here, and then import. That is how it will work. Okay. So right now what we are understanding is that there will come a possibility, the thing that I was explaining, the thing that Arjun sir had a query, there will be a possibility wherein the detail is mandatory. Yes, the detail is not something that you can just do a specified detail over here. Yes, so what to do in such case? Create a new column. You don't stand an option. Sir, new column we'll have to create. How will it work? Well, you don't stand an option. Understand? Depending on the volume of transactions, this is a very small exercise that you have to do in case of such thing. There is no what do you say, in life there is nothing called as free lunch. So yes, there are some places where you have to get such ideas done. Arjun sir, you understood the answer to your query. You'll have to create a separate column to mention the GST registration type, or in your case the state name, and take it ahead. If yes, please put a yes in the chat box. For others, let's take it ahead. Okay. State name we already have. Now GST registration type, we have a separate column for this. So we'll mention it over here. GST type, yes, state. Country, specify fixed field value, India. Now what happens is, okay, in my experience, I have seen it in many point of times. We get n number of Excel files, okay, but in many files, the country name is nowhere mentioned. It is okay till the time you don't get an export transaction. So somebody had a query in relation to export. Sir, how do we will it work for multiple items of this multiple rates of the same item, as in export, local sales and export sales? To answer that query, sir, mapping templates, whenever you map something and import it into a Tally, more or less it is blind. More or less it is blind. And therefore, if there is something which is separate for exports, there has to be some column or multiple columns in Excel to tell that boss that this is export and this is different from the regular transaction. Yes. Country, specify fixed field value, India. In case if you are dealing with other countries as well, then unfortunately you will have to have columns in Excel wherein it is mentioned that boss, some particular clients are from India and some particular clients are from outside India. Because there are clients from outside India, then you cannot have a fixed field value of India. Everybody so far so good? If yes, please put a yes in the chat box. Once again, I will repeat for everybody else. See, basically what we are doing, there are some details whenever you create a master, there are some details that you mandatorily have to maintain, mandatorily have to mention. Yes. Now we are looking at a possibility wherein automatically we create a master. Yes. So to automatically create a master, obviously you will need those details in your Excel. Yes. Now, if you don't have those details in your Excel, what you can do, either you can do a fixed field value or you can create a separate column in your Excel. Fine. Everybody with me? So far, so good. In case if any queries, please do let me know. For everybody else who would be like, sir, how would we be able to do it? I'm anyways gonna give you the data. I'm gonna give you the sample Excel files. This video would be uploaded on YouTube. Please try it out on your own, and therefore you will be able to understand it in a better way. What is the concept for row and column? Two parameter. What is the concept for row and column? Two parameters. Sir, I didn't understand your query. If you can just rephrase the question. From and to is asked. Okay, okay. Import data from column. Okay, row and column two. Row and column two. Okay. Sir, understand one thing. What happens is, for this month or for this day, say for example, there are just 6 sales invoices that have been created, and the last row that you have is row number 15. Okay, this is for 1st of April 2025. Now, when you get the Excel file for 2nd of April 2025, not necessarily na, that the data would end at row number 15. It may end at row number 20, maybe some other row. Maybe there would be just one entry, so it would end at row number 2. So that is why 2 always has to be blank or the last part. Uh, do base data as XLS format in the absence of any field in Excel, then go as per Tally Master. So Prakash ji, you have to go as per fixed field value. There is in the mapping template, unfortunately, whenever you map a template, there is no option that if there is no value that is available, then please go to the master and fetch value from there and then get it. ऐसा नहीं होता है. That is not how it works. Okay, so there has to be a column, or if there is no column, then there has to be a specified fixed field value. Nishan ji, can we map Excel row wise? Is it possible? Not exactly. I'll tell you why. Because headers are always in columns, so you'll have to map it column wise. Row wise, it is simply not possible. What you can do is in pivot table, there are advanced concepts in pivot table which will help you to get the row fields in the column fields. Or you can do a transpose function in Excel, which can also help you get the desired results. But from Tally perspective, you cannot do. Now, in advanced pivot concepts and your transpose functions, obviously I cannot take it right now. I would recommend you use ChatGPT for it, especially the Go part. I personally use the plus one, but in the Go part you can use. But for importing journal voucher entries like Nishanji, salary honestly is not a part of today's session. But again, as I said, these are the fundamentals. You can take it ahead. For your specific query, just to address your query so that you don't get any issues later on, for your specific query, see, understand the logic, what we are trying to do over here. You have a voucher entry screen. You anyway mention those details in the voucher entry screen, right? So all those details need to be mentioned in your Excel file. All it then boils down is the way you have mapped it. When we do the voucher entry part, I'll again come back to it and probably give you a better insight so that whenever you're doing a salary transaction template on your own, these insights will help you out. I'll come back to it at that point of time. Okay, so right now over here, country fixed field value, we are taking it as India, end of list. Fine. Sir, I have done this mapping template to be details, but I think messed up in the CGST, SGST, IJ. So voucher entry will come to it in some point of time. Right now, we are just focusing on the master's part. Okay. Tally imported two entries for one CGST, and yes, I don't understand. No worries. You are at the right place. When we do the voucher entry part, you will understand. No worries. No worries. No worries. Okay. Yes. Okay, queries I'll entertain for the voucher related queries. I'll entertain all the queries. I'll answer all the queries satisfactorily. No worries. For others, mapping template. How do you create a mapping template whenever you are trying to import from Excel and there are masters, there are ledger masters, or there are stock item masters that have to be created. You understood the logic. The logic is very simple. There are some data points that are mandatorily have to be mentioned whenever you create a master. We are just trying to find those data points in the Excel that we have, whatever Excel that you get. If there are no such data points that are in the Excel that you get, you have to do a fixed field, specify details over here and mention it that way. Everybody with me so far so good? So then we take up the transactions part. With me? If yes, please put a yes in the chat box. Just a minute. 16:08. Okay. We have some time, no worries. Fine. So let's get back to the PPT. I'll just explain you some part. Again, some parts that are obvious, but you need to understand. Obviously, whenever you are entering any transaction into Tally, these three things are basic. Voucher type, in our case, it is sales. Voucher number, that is the invoice number, date. Reference number, reference date, in case if it is applicable. Debtor party, to whom you have sold, your sundry debtor, the state, the country, the GST registration type, the supply, and a couple of other details as well. As I was mentioning, you get your bill to, and in case of consignee, you get your ship to as well. Whenever you're entering some transactions in Tally. Sales ledger. Obviously, what is the sales ledger? In our sample case, it was sales taxable. You may be having multiple. Stock items name, individual taxable amounts, quantity UQC, GST ledgers, GST amounts. See, this is the rule of the thumb. Any Excel file should contain such details which are mandatory for automation to be successfully implemented. Now let's take up the template for voucher creation. Before that, just a basic 11 standard journal entry, as simple as that. This is something that you would have learned in your college days. Okay. Debtor account debit to sales account whenever you pass an entry. So debtor has to be debited, sales have to be credited. Okay. Now in your sales, since we are dealing with inventory, obviously in your sales taxable, there would be some items that you would have sold, maybe item 1, item 2, multiple items, item 3, item 4, whatever it is. Then you would be having some GST ledgers as well, because we live in India. There is something called as goods and service tax that we have. In your GST, it would either be a CGST, SGST, or it would be an IGST. Again, your sales would be a credit, your GST ledgers would be a credit, and your debtor ledger would be a debit. Yes, basics, fundamentals, fundamental of commerce, 11th standard that you would have learned, but people make majority mistakes here. That is why you get a debit not equal to credit. Okay, let's take it ahead. Fine. Mapping template for transactions. Understand. I have taken some complicated part over here. Why? Because this video is anyways gonna come on YouTube. So I was like, might as well take some complicated part so that the participants can get more knowledge out of the 1.5 hour that we have. Transaction, this data, POS. Okay. Now somebody had asked me, sir, what about round off? Understand, for round off, what I recommend is that you need to have two columns. One column wherein there would be a positive round off, another column wherein there would be a negative round off. Okay. Two columns, and you fit in the round off in, say, for example, first, what I always do, personally, I always do. Somebody who had a query for salary as well, personally, what I always do is I first pass a manual journal entry in my rough work that I do. Manually I pass, and then I see where the debit should go, where the credit should go, and accordingly I create my own mapping templates. It is very basic, very fundamental, but it saves a lot of time for me to avoid those debit not equal to credit differences and other issues that I receive. Okay. So once again, I'll repeat for the somebody who had a round of query. You have to what about duplication in masters and items? I'll come to it in some point of time, no worries. um Round off either a debit side or a credit side. You see in your columns which is the debit one, which is the credit one, and map it accordingly. Again, those fundamental things which are anyways required whenever you create a voucher. Whenever you create a voucher, what are the fundamental things that you require? All those fundamental things need to be mapped in the template. Voucher type name. In the Excel file, obviously you do not have a column wherein it is mentioning the voucher type name. So if you do not have a column wherein there is no mention of a voucher type name, what do? Specify fixed field value sales. You don't stand an option. We have a voucher date. Yes, we have the date column over here. Then we have the state column over here as well. Voucher number, obviously the invoice number we have. Reference number, just for so that I can show it to you. I have mentioned it over here. Reference number is also the voucher number. Change mode. Now this is very interesting. Let me come to it. See, whenever you see a sales transaction in this way, name of the item. What is it? What is it basically? It is basically your change mode item invoice. See, this is what it is. Even this thing can be mapped in the template. How do you do? Change mode, specify fixed field value, and in the fixed field value, you can take it as item invoice, so that automatically whenever you open that entry, automatically it opens in this format as well. Yes, sir. The recordings are available. It will be available on YouTube, so no worries. Okay. Now, what is this? buyer supplier bill from, just a minute, hold on. Sorry. Now, what is this buyer supplier bill from to? What is this? Understand. So whenever, wait a second. You see, buyer, and then you get a mailing name and a mailing address and all of these things. Yes, these are the details that we need to mention it. Okay. Now you would be like, sir, once we mentioned the party account name over here, shouldn't these things be coming automatically, directly fetching from the tally master that we have created? Well, unfortunately, the answer is no. I think somebody had a query in relation to this part. I think Prakash ji had a query in relation to this part, whether the entry would be fetching data automatically from the master. The answer is no. It doesn't do that. So buyer supplier bill from is basically these details that you have to mention, whenever you're creating an entry. So ये सब भी mention करना पड़ता है. You have to mention these things. Buyer supplier bill from, buyer supplier country, buyer supplier GSTIN, buyer supplier place of supply, GST registration type. All of these things need to be mentioned separately in the mapping template when you are trying to create a mapping template for transactions. You simply, unfortunately, don't find an option. Sad but true. Now, top ledger. Now, what do you mean by top ledger? Very simple. Top ledger is basically the debtor, a debtor account debit. Na? You do a debtor account debit and then you do a sales account credit. So top ledger, ledger name. Do we have the column for the ledger name? Yes, we have the column for the ledger name. It is mentioned over here. Ledger amount, compute value. Now, this is very interesting. For all those who had issues in relation to round off, say, what do I mean by compute value? Now, this is a very good feature that Tally has. Understand. You know, all your product names are one below the other, one below the other, one below the other. Okay. Whereas when you intend to debit the debtor, you have to do a total, obviously, right? Total of the taxables, total of the CGST, total of the SGST, total of the IGST if applicable, right? This is what it is. Debtor account debit 100 rupees to total of the tax, debtor account debit 118 to total of the taxable 100 to total of the CGST, total of the SGST, total of the IGST. This is what we do. Now, how do you total in Tally? How do you total in Tally? So Tally gives a very beautiful feature called as compute values, and wherein you are basically explaining that, boss, you take the total of the taxable, total of the CGST, total of the SGST, total of the SGST. Sir, now what is this debit credit? Ah, nothing to worry. Debtor account debit. So you have to mention debit over there. As simple as that. So top ledger. Firstly, we are talking of top ledgers over here. What are we talking on the top ledgers? We are talking on the debtor account debit part. Debtor account debit part. In the debtor account debit part, what we are basically debiting the debtor with the total of the invoice value. Now, how do you do the total of the invoice value? We have this very beautiful feature wherein we can ask Tally to basically compute on the basis of a couple of columns that are available. Debit, 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 debit. Now, this is also a very interesting thing. Ledger amount debit credit. We are talking of the debtor in a sales transaction. So in a sales transaction, the debtor has to be debited, specify fixed field value, debit. Now, sir, what is this? Bill type, bill name, what is all of this? Chalo, let's understand. Bill type, bill name, bill amount, debit, credit. How many of you do new reference against reference accounting in your Tally? Wherein whenever you create a sales or a purchase entry, you do a new reference, and then whenever the payment is received or the payment is made, you do an against reference. How many of you do that? Please put a yes in the chat box. Yes, 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 exactly. Now what happens is Tally automatically will never recognize that there has to be a new reference and there has to be an against reference when you do an automation. So you have to guide Tally. You have to guide Tally that, boss, there are columns in Excel. For this particular data point, please pick up data from this column of Excel. That is what you have to do. You have to guide Tally for every small, everything, every small bhi chodo. Everything, for everything you have to guide Tally. There is practically no detail that Tally will automatically be fetching from the master. Practically no detail whenever you do an automation. Everything has to be mapped. Everything you have to guide Tally. Everything has to be mapped. Now, where does this thing come up? For all those who who deal with this, this part. Whenever you are at the end of the entry, somewhere over here, this thing will come up. You see these screens day in day out. Apologies. So we take it. This is how you will end the top ledger part. In my case, for sample purposes, I had taken 5 days. In your case, you may be having a column wherein the due date is mentioned, or in case if you have not, then you can might as well keep it blank. Now we come to the bottom part, the bottom ledgers, the credit ledgers. What all credit do we do in case of a sales transaction? We credit the sales taxable, we credit the CGST, the SGST, and all other taxes if applicable. Ledger name. In our case, there was just one ledger that we have, the sales ka ledger. That is why we have mentioned it as specify fixed field over here, sales taxable. Wait a second, let me just show you. See, we just have one ledger over here, sales taxable. There is a possibility in your case you would be having multiple ledgers, sales 5%, sales 12%, sales 18%. So how do you do in such a case? Very simple, very simple. What do you do? In case of a fixed field value, you do a specify column and take things ahead. Sir, we do not have a specify column, then you'll have to create a column. There's no other option. See, visualize. That is what the key is over here. You may need to see this video more than one point of time, more than once, I believe. But keep the fundamentals clear of accounting. Keep the fundamentals clear of how a transaction is entered in Tally or how a master is created in Tally, and you will find solutions to practically all your problems. In our case, there is no column which says that which is the sales taxable ledger, but we have just one single ledger, that is the sales taxable. The name of the ledger is sales taxable. So we have done. Now ledger amount, compute value. Now again over here, compute value by what? Now what is this? See, understand, very simple. We have taken a complicated example, but I'm trying to simplify as simplified as possible. Now if you notice over here, in our case, this taxable value is for the product. Now this one particular invoice had two products, 1 and 2. Okay, so now in your sales taxable, it should go the total of these two products, and individually item 1 item 1's taxable value is 324, item 2's taxable value is 600. That is why you do a compute value over here. Again, journal entry. See, over here the total is 100. Oh, sorry, total is 100, but individually item 150, item 250. Now how do you get this 100 over here? You do the total, you do the sum of these items, item 1, item 2. That is how you get the total. Similarly, we have multiple items over here. So what do? We do the total. We do the total of the taxable. The similar way we had done when we wanted the total of the invoice value. So what did we do? Total of taxable plus total of CGST, SGST, and IGST. Similarly, we'll have to do the total of taxable over here. Compute value. Specify fixed field value, credit. Now why is there a credit over here? Now why is there a credit? As simple, because debtor account debit, sales account credit. In your sales account below over here, see, notice the gap over here, huh? Top ledger and then there is a gap, bottom ledger and then there is a gap. Why? Because under the bottom ledgers, you are trying to specify some details. If you notice over here, there is no gap. There's no gap. Why? Because these details are as is where is the way they are. See. Your date, your sales invoice number is nowhere under the GST ledger or under the party account ledger, right? It is independent. It is anyway which you have to mention. It is not under something. That is why you mention it separately and not under top ledger or under bottom ledger. Okay. However, stock item is something that comes under sales taxable, and that is how you will have to mention it over here. Item name, build quantity. Quantity, do we have quantity column? Yes, we have the quantity column over here. Unit UOM, yes, we have unit, which is over here, box, dozen, etc. Item amount, taxable value, C. Item amount per item we have over here. End of list. Then we go back. Bottom ledger. Now, after the sales taxable, which would be the next bottom ledgers? Obviously, the tax ledgers. But how will we understand how much lines it has to consider for totaling the ledger amount? Sir, again, we go back to the fundamentals. Whenever, whatever Excel you have, forget that you are doing automation. If you do manually, how will you do? You will try to total some things up, right? You will try to total some columns up. So whatever columns you try to total manually, the same columns, whatever columns you try to total manually, the same columns you will have to do over here, compute value, and in the compute value you will mention the columns over here, and what do you say, take it ahead. So once again, bottom ledger, where item rate gone? I have not mentioned the item rate. I do not intend to mention the item rate in this case, so I have not mentioned. In case for me personally, since I am mentioning the taxable value and the item rate and the quantity, I am mentioning the taxable value and the quantity. For all practical purposes, the rate is irrelevant. In case if it is relevant for you, then you will have to mention item rate over here, item rate, and map the particular column of item rate. That is what you'll have to do. Okay. Now bottom ledgers. The first ledger, obviously the taxation ledger, GST ledger. Now if you notice, we do not have any column which says GST, 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 CGST, CGST. We do not have such column. We have a column of only of what? Of party name. We do not have a column for GST ledger name, wherever it is. So what we'll have to do? We'll have to do a fixed field value, CGST. Ledger amount, compute value total of what? Compute value of CGST amount, compute value of CGST amount. Credit again, obviously, as I said, because GST ledgers have to be credited. Similar logic you apply for your SGST. You do not have a separate column which says which ledger it is, but you have a column of SGST amount. So specify fixed field value, SGST, ledger amount, compute value, and similarly for IGST. Yes, unique values for creating vouchers. Now, what is this? What is unique values for creating vouchers? See, whenever you create a sales transaction, now this is where somebody had asked me, what about duplicates? I'll come to it. Whenever you are entering a sales transaction or a purchase transaction, what is the unique value that you have? The sales invoice number, because that is unique per this thing, per entry. So, what is the unique? It is the sales invoice number, in this case, voucher number. Okay. Now I'll just go through the configurations once. No. Exclude rows in data, exclude rows in Excel while importing data. Now sometimes what may happen is there may be some blank rows that you would be getting. Say for example, over here there's a blank row, over here there's a blank row, or something like that. Or there are a couple of other rows that you may not want it to be included. So then what you can do is you can do a yes over here, so that it asks you that, boss, what type of columns or what type of rows do you intend to exclude? Now say for example, if there was a blank row over here, okay, if there was a blank row over here, now I know that for every data or for every row, there was some or the other field in the, there was some or the other value in the product name, right? If there is a blank row, the product name will also be blank. So what do I do is, say for example, product name, as empty. So even if you get some details, wherein there are some blank rows or some or the other issue, you can always logically think that if you were to do it manually, how you would have done, and explain the same condition to Tally as is various basis. Okay, now coming back to two queries. Okay, query number one, sir, what if there are duplicates which happen? Okay, so now I'll address that query live. So say for example, if we have to import some master, what master? Say for example, stock item master. Okay, so import masters. Again, the same Excel file that we have, POS masters ledger. See, behavior of import if the master already exists. So if there is a wait a second, stock item or ledger also, either case doesn't really matter. If there is a master that has already been created in Tally, Tally will ask before importing that, sir, what do you want to do if the master already exists? Do you intend to say that whatever master was existing and whatever I am trying to import, combine the details? Or do you intend to say that, boss, if the master has already been created earlier, please ignore? Or do you want to say that whatever now I am importing, you forget the old master that was created and you modify that master with the new data that I am providing? For all practical purposes, what we do is we say that Tally, please ignore the duplicates. Why? Because the master has already been created and we do not want to create a separate master again for the master that has already been created. It will create a lot of trouble later on. There was this somebody who had this query. I hope your query has been addressed. Thank you. Now speaking of the transactions part. Okay. As you can see, there is this just one sample transaction that we had just entered for discussion purposes. That is the transaction that is available over here.
Mr. Henik, how
Ye-
much time further for to
5 minutes,
cover that?
just 5 minutes,
Okay.
just 5 minutes. We are done. We are at the end part.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Okay. So now what we'll do is we will import the transactions. Um, we imported the masters over here. Wait a second, apologies. We import the masters over here. Okay, ledger and ignore duplicates. Yes, yes. And this is how it will show whenever you intend to import a master. Then you click on import and it gets imported. In my case, considering time constraints, I had already imported the masters and kept. There were no errors whatsoever. So I'm not trying to hide anything. Okay. Now, but for everybody, we will take up the more part. Please provide the Excel and sample data. Yes, yes, yes. I will be providing. No worries. Okay, we will import the transactions part. Others, complex, sales, accounting, masters. Yes, no. There are 6 transactions. Yes, because we have 6 invoices over here. Okay, apologies. It is considering one more row. Okay, that is what it has considered. Row number 15. Yes. Okay, this has not been saved. Good for my part. I'll just remove this. Bus. Perfect. Fine. Anybody has any other query? No. Fine. Fine, coming back to the template. Yes, 6 transactions. We click on import. Yes, the transactions are imported. Now, how do we see? We go to the PL, profit and loss. Sorry. As you can see, all the transactions are imported, and not just that, not just that, not just that. The way you would normally enter a transaction is the way you see over here. Point number one. Point number two, you get the details, whatever details were any which ways required to be maintained. That cash sales, as I said, was a counter sale, so this was unregistered consumer. And in case of, say for example, if it was a B2B sale, then this was a regular party, and therefore this is mentioned over here. In case if you are wondering, sir, in the consignee ship to, why is there a state and country not applicable mentioned? This was what I was trying to explain, that Tally automatically is not going to fetch the details from the master and enter it over here. You will have to map it out. And we deliberately did not map the consignee so that you can understand that you will have to specifically map it out. Okay. Regular, again, we got this part, we got this part. Sales taxable, yes, automatically it was mentioned. Cricket stump, somebody had a issue in relation to rate. Sir, the good part is we had mentioned the quantity, we had mentioned the UQC, we mentioned the amount. So for this specific purposes, Tally automatically calculated the rate. Congratulations. But usually it doesn't do that. Okay, usually for all practical purposes it doesn't do that. What it is doing right now is just visualizing you that, boss, what I have done is amount divide by the quantity and you're getting some figure over here. Again, masters, because in the masters we had already kept it updated. Now the other beautiful part, see, automatically new reference, SC2, all these things are automatically mentioned over here automatically. Mind you, we have not manually done everything. And the moment you go to your bills receivable, you get these invoices even in your what do you say, part as well. So all those details are any which ways available as well in your what do you say, whenever you try to do this thing using the mapping template. And the same way you can do it for your GSTR1 as well. Let me just see. Usually though we do it 825. Yes, ready to upload. The six transactions that we imported from the Excel file and one that I had manually mentioned earlier. See, ready to upload. There is no uncertain transaction, no correction needed. Why? Because we had mapped it out correctly and mentioned all the details appropriately as well. Somebody had a query in relation to export transactions. Let me just take that part right now from the transactions perspective. Sir, in your specific case, if you are dealing with some exports, okay, first things first, there need to be columns in your Excel which help to identify what details need to be mentioned over here. And there need to be columns in Excel to say that, boss, specify details here, and since this is specifically an export, it would probably be a nil rated, and you will have to map it out accordingly, specifically for your export transactions. I hope this part was clear. Anybody has any queries, please put it in the chat box, else we end the session over here.
Yeah, so I think we have no further questions. Wait, एक second. Have Mr. Henik, have you gone through the ये क्या है ये?
Yes, yes, yes. I have gone through all the queries.
Yeah, no?
In my case,
Yeah.
basically speaking, the web chat is always open. The chat box is always open.
Okay, great. Okay, no, I
Huh.
was just checking for the Q&A box, so that would
No, 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 no.
be
I understand. I understand.
yeah.
No worries.
Yeah, so as I was saying, as you can see, the so many pouring compliments already. Thank you so much for this session. Absolutely engaging and superb delivery. To be very honest, it was informative at the same time, very engaging, and everybody could understand and get their queries resolved immediately. Thank you so much. So, while this was your first session at this forum, I'm sure this will not be the last. I'm going to be requesting a lot more of your time. So, thank you so much. I'll now end the session. Thank you so much, audience, for joining in and staying post our webinar session. It only shows how important and very interesting this topic was. So, thank you so much, Mr. Henik, for your time. I will now end the session.
Sure, sure, sure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.